We respectfully request the Sangha great virtues for the sake of this assembly and all living beings. Please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach and guide us how to end birth and death, leave suffering and attain bliss, and quickly realize non-birth. Cung thính đại đức tặng thịnh, vị thứ pháp hội cấp nhất thiết chúng sanh. Tịnh chuyên diệu phạm luân giao đạo ngã môn, như há liêu sanh thoát tư ly khổ đà la, tất chứng vô sanh. Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One. Nam mô Sadanto Suche Do Ye Ula Hudi San Miao San Puto Xie. Nam mô Tạc Đắc Tha Tô Ya Đa Ya La Ha Đế Tam Miệu Tam Bồ Đà Toa. The unsurpassed, profound, subtle, and wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million aeons is difficult to encounter. Now that I'm able to see and hear, I will receive and maintain it. I vow to fathom the thus come one's true and actual principles. Wu shang sheng sheng wei miao fa bai qian万劫难遭遇，我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Great Master Ching Liang, Great Master YongHua, all good monks and nuns, and all good knowing advisors, Emitofuo. 诸佛菩萨、精良大师、师父上人、各位智者人、各位善知识，弥陀佛。Chư Phật Bồ Tát, kính thưa Thánh Lương Đại sư Hòa thượng Thiện Hóa, quý thầy cô và quý vị thiện sư Thích Ca Di Đà Phật. Hello everyone, today is the 9th of June 2023. We are here at Gold Forest to continue discussing the prologue to the Avatamsaka Sutra. It's prepared by Great Master Ching Liang. We are now on slide 407. Again, this may be a little bit more abstract, more scholarly than I would personally prefer to talk about. But it's good that we are enduring this to learn more about the principles, and we see the kind of depth that the teaching has, so that in the future, when you'll be going out there or to propagate the Dharma, or people come to your temples and our temples and ask about the Dharma, you see how ridiculously shallow the understandings are. And so it's good to hear about these words and these concepts. And it's a tremendous vajra seeds, prajna seeds for your big enlightenment. And we're talking about a very rare opportunity indeed to spend this kind of time doing this. And I really appreciate it. It's a kind of difficult. That's why it's not surprising to me that there aren't that many people who can keep up with it, okay? Especially on a Friday night here in the U.S. where I remember Friday night is an exciting night. You prepare for the hunt tomorrow. For a good time tomorrow. Okay, so have a normal life, but for you to come and study this I'm very impressed. 很难得, it's very rare indeed. So thank you for coming. Okay, let's jump right into it. 407, or perhaps they made a division to 3, as did Dharma Master Ji of Wuqiu Mountain. That is, 12 years prior, it was from seeing existences that the way was obtained. And so it is called the teaching of existence of marks.
I just want to check. I think we start on slide 421.
421, okay, we did this already. Okay, let's do it again. You see, that's cultivation. We screw up and we fix it. After 30 years of turning, illumining, and maintaining were comprised, because the pair illumining emptiness and existence was used to maintain the previous 2.
30年后，具转照持，以双照空有，持前2故。
Okay, 422. So what he's referring to is when the Buddha was teaching a Dharma for 50 years. He started by teaching the Avatamsaka Sutra, that's for the humans who had no wisdom whatsoever, who are sort of too intellectual, too attached to thinking, too attached to the intellect, to their wisdom, to their smarts. So you meet such people, like the Buddha did, and especially some of the people who are like externalists that practice the Hinduism and so forth, yoga and so forth. There were a lot of spiritual practitioners like that. And the Buddha said, look at them and say, well, I have just the right kind of things that might interest you. It's called Agama teaching. So he taught that for like 22 years or odd years or so. For some times. So that's why he talked about depending on the potential of the listeners, he would speak the Dharma accordingly. So he started out by teaching. So later he started teaching more and more, very much like us. And then later, when his students acquire knowledge and became wiser and have the ability, were transformed into tremendously wise people, then he said, well, for me to challenge you, I will need to step it up and teach more and more profound principles. So Buddhism actually is depth that you will not find in any teaching in the world, in the human realm. Okay? And not only is it more profound, but also it has the ability to help you develop your mind in a way that will help you transcend your own limitations. See, what you don't realize is you put limitation on yourselves without knowing it. Okay? It's because you didn't know better. You didn't know that you are much better than you think you are. Okay? So anyway, so the Buddha taught that, and that's what enthralled his disciples. They opened the wisdom and said, wow, there's more, really, after this? So that's why he taught and taught and taught and taught. And after 50 years of teaching, he said, okay, that's enough. Okay? It's time for me to go. And so he said, what I did here is enough, and I will, for the foreseeable future, I can see that my Dharma would be good enough for all the Buddhist disciples, okay, for all my followers. So he has that vision. He knew already it's time to go. And so he taught certain teachings over time And so after he's gone, then the scholars, the Dharma masters in particular, the monks and nuns who were very, very intrigued by his teaching. It's fascinating that the more that they study Buddhism, the Buddha Dharma, the more they like it, the more challenged they became. And so they studied all the Buddhist teaching and started by classifying them, dividing them to different types of teachings. What for? In order to help people who are much more limited than they are, much less knowledgeable than they are, to understand the teachings, the Buddha's teachings. Okay, so they divide it into like Buddhist teaching to periods, to 3 periods, 3 types of teachings, 2 types of teachings, 4, 5, and so forth. Okay, so it's interesting how the scholars in China, in India, they back then they used to systematize, classify the system in order to teach the followers. Okay, so that's why you have these teachings. So right now we're talking about 3 types of teachings that these scholars decided to classify them. So the 3 types of teachings are in 30 years, meaning 20 years of prajna, 7 years of prajna teaching, and 7 prior years of teaching. So they divide into 3: turning a Dharma wheel, illumining the Dharma wheel, and maintaining a Dharma wheel. Okay, so what does it mean? Turning a Dharma wheel, meaning that the very first period when they started teaching, he says, I will turn a Dharma wheel. It's called turning a Dharma wheel. We talk about the 4 noble truths: the truth of suffering, the truth of accumulation, the truth of extinction, and the truth of the way. He basically says, first thing you ought to be aware of, don't neglect this. You taught to run away from this and ignore this and avoid it. But you see, doesn't matter what you do, you suffering. You are suffering, big time. Okay, the nature of life is suffering, like it or not. Okay, and so that's why it's called turning a Dharma wheel. That's the first wheel of the Dharma, the first truth. It says, the first turning of the wheel, the first speaking of the Dharma. This is the kind of noble truths, because it's unchanging. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter who you are. Okay? You suffer. We all suffer. We have all sorts of sufferings. Okay? Next truth, next turning of the wheel is called the accumulation. He says, suffering. If you come to accept suffering as a fact of life, you realize next it accumulates, meaning that more just in just accumulation, actually it adds up, but not just adds up, it accrues, but also layer by layers by layers. So what you do when you revolve in a wheel of reincarnation, okay, every time you're born, you suffer, and your suffering actually adds on top of the existing layers of suffering, to the point where we're so confused. We lost track. It's so overwhelming that no one dares look at it anymore. We all learn, we're smart, so let's not look at things we cannot help, but look at things we can, like pleasure. Because it's easier to figure out how to have pleasure, to have fun, than to solve suffering. And the one fact about us is that we're scared to look at our faults, our truths. Okay? We don't like to look at it because it's very uncomfortable. It's very unpleasant. Okay? Can you imagine going to see your friends and share about your sufferings? You say, today I found out I'm really suffering. You know that? It's so fascinating. Buddhism is so fascinating. I realize that I have all my life is about suffering. Everywhere I look, everything I do is actually suffering. because of suffering, and causes even more sufferings on top. Really? And that's what they call depressed people. And your friends will shun you. So that's what happens. So that's why we can only do with so much, and the Buddha can do so much. Yes. One.
Master, I have a question that a lot of times I see my faults, and immediately I feel bad about myself. It's like, because I see the faults, but if I just drop it, should I just drop it? Once I see my faults, I drop it and move on, or how should I handle it?
That's a good point. If you see your faults, what kind of faults do you have? Can we talk about it?
Well, there are a lot. For example, I don't like my mom.
You don't like your mom?
Well, I see her and I get afflicted.
Can we get something worse? So you see your faults. What it has to do with suffering?
Master, you were just talking about we should be looking at our faults. So
when?
Just 2 minutes ago.
I did. Did I say that I should be looking at your faults? I'm just looking at your suffering. People are afraid to look at their suffering.
Yeah.
And how do you translate that into faults again?
I heard the faults part, but maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, this question, I can still ask a question, right? Okay. It's funny because it seems to me that you are influenced. Okay. In that I spoke very clearly. I thought I've been talking about suffering. It's nothing about faults. You are perfect. You are beautiful people. I wouldn't dare bring up your faults. Okay, you have to look at them yourselves. I think maybe you were talking about people usually look at the pleasant sides of things. They don't look at the suffering. And somewhere there, maybe you mentioned people don't look at the faults.
Why are people afraid to look at their own suffering? Because it's depressing. Because you can't do anything about it. It's so depressing. There's certain types of suffering we cannot do anything about. So that's why we choose. We have to look away. We have to go have a drink. We have to go have fun because it distracts us from our sufferings. I'm not talking about faults. I'm talking about the suffering. And that's what people do, is they run away from it. They don't dare look at their own sufferings. Because they can't do anything about it. Even the smartest people, they can't not do anything about it. That's a terrifying thing. So we accept the fact that we can't do anything about it. Why should you? That's what the Buddha says. The first thing you do when I started talking, when I first started teaching, I said the truth of suffering. People said, "Why are you so pessimistic?" Okay, there's so many more pleasant things in lives that we can talk about. And that's a fallacy. And the fallacy is that in Buddhism, we explain to you that you have to face the fact is that we're suffering. And it accumulates. Nothing you can do about it. Okay? Unless in Buddhism, the Buddha has a wisdom, it says, you can make all of that disappear. Just like that.
And that's great news. The truth cannot be changed is that we're suffering and it piles up. Doesn't matter who you are. It keeps piling up your suffering. If you ignore it, it keeps on piling up to the point where it's overwhelming for you. Look at your own lives, our own lives. We are overwhelmed by life, by our own suffering, the pressure and the stress and the unmet desires and the failings of your body. And the Buddha says, if, turning the wheel, he says, if you want to know why I'm telling you that, because I want you, unless you like me, when I came to this world, I was born in this world, I was born as a prince, a royal prince, okay? Emperor in waiting, a king in waiting. I realized that all the pleasant things in life will not solve my sufferings. They only are band-aids. They're only masking my underlying suffering. So I found a way to end all the suffering forever. I never suffer again. It's called extinction. There's a way to end your suffering. If I could do it, so can you. That's the third thing. He's the first person in human realm who says, I've done it. So can you. You should do it too. My disciples have done it. So can you. It's something called the way. There's a way to do it. There's a path that all of us can do it. Monks, nuns, men, women, children, dragons, all of us. Okay? And that's why it's called turning, years of turning the Dharma wheels. He was going around teaching people that. And people became interested and they followed his style of cultivation. They said, wow, this is for real. This is so cool. Okay? And after that, he stepped it up. He says, now he uses illumining. Okay? And then next he does the maintaining. Okay? So, so turning Dharma wheel is, he talked about the Four Noble Truths. Illumining is, he says, you take emptiness and you look at your lives and you realize that you look at very closely, you see that actually it's not worth attaching to. If you look at under bright lights exhaustively, then you see your attachments are nonsense. Attachment is actually the things that really make you suffer. Okay, and maintaining is that maintaining we're comprised the third Dharma wheel is maintaining, where actually the Buddha helps us look at emptiness in existence. So emptiness is not alone, is not enough. He says also the existence is also needs to be looked at, okay, so that your wisdom is more balanced. And then you realize that actually life is not the balanced viewpoint. And wisdom is that emptiness and existence are non-obstructive, okay, and there's something, if you really have true wisdom, then it's called true emptiness. Emptiness actually is only a subset, a small thing of something called true emptiness. Existence is also a small set of something called wonderful existence. Okay? and they are non-obstructive, meaning what? Meaning that you can have empty, meaning you detach, and you can attach at the same time. Okay? And so that's the real wisdom, right there. Real Buddha's wisdom is that it's balance. Okay? Next. And so he illumined, meaning you shine bright lights on emptiness and existence. Emptiness is that everything returns to empty. Everything will become empty eventually. That's called the principle of emptiness. Existence is that it's real. Okay? So when you understand these two aspects of life, okay, you can both attach and detach. All right? Next, 424. Or perhaps they made the division to four, as did Dharma Master Ji of the Sung dynasty. That is, to the previous 3 times, after that of marklessness, and before that of the permanent dwelling.
或分为4，即宋朝即法师位于前20无相之后，常住之前。
Okay, so this is continuing with how they chose to divide and classify the teachings, the Buddhist teachings, and calling them different names, and into 4. This has there are 4 periods, 4 types of teachings that are critical. And some Dharma master back then, or Ji, the Sung dynasty, and so forth. And he chose to say that their previous teachings of marklessness and existence of marklessness and permanent dwelling actually is one more. Okay, and so there's something called identical return. Okay, that is, before they only have this existence of marklessness and the permanent dwelling. He says actually there's one more called teaching of identical return. Okay, and 426, he places Dharma Sutra as a teaching of identical return because he gathers the 3 to return them to the one and transfer the mirror goods completely to Bodhi.
指法华经为同归教，以会三归一，万善息相菩提故。
Okay, so 427, he says, all the other teaching I talked that people classified, there's something actually called he quoted Dharma Flower Sutra as a teaching of identical return. Okay, what does it mean, identical return? Identical return because all the other teachings of the 3 vehicles, the 3 vehicles meaning the Arhat's vehicle, the Pratyeka Buddha vehicle, and Bodhisattva vehicle. All those 3 vehicles, okay, actually are preparations to bring them back to that one source where they came from, or the teachings came from. Very much like all the water from the tributaries, from the streams and the rivers, all have to return back to the ocean. Inexorably, they all have to go back to the ocean. Okay, so very much like all the teachings are returned to one. Okay, one teaching in the Dharma Flower Sutra. Okay, and so that you gather all the 3 vehicles there, all those 3 teachings, or the 3 vehicles, the one supreme vehicle, Buddha vehicle. Okay, why? Because then you have the big picture, that the myriad goods completely transfer to Bodhi, meaning that all the teachings of the prior vehicles, okay, are the teachings of goodness, Buddhism is the study of goodness and the practice of goodness. You transform, okay, all your suffering, all your karmas into goodness. And that's how you affect your own salvation, your own liberation. Okay? And all the mirror goodness, all the three vehicles, in order for you to end your suffering, you have to do good. That's a very simple principle. You suffer because you were evil. You're a bad person. Okay? And so the secret is that in order for you to escape, you have to do good and dedicate it for your own enlightenment. That's what it takes. Okay? And that's why all the other teachings until the Dharma Flower Sutra or Lotus Sutra, okay, they basically are preparation. They just bring you back to the one teaching, that meaning that in the Lotus Sutra, okay, where all of them actually will prepare you to become a Buddha. That's what it's about. Okay, and the mirror goods from the Agama teaching, from the Arhat's teaching, the Puri teaching, the period after Agama, another period called Prajna, which teaches more about how to become enlightened and so forth. You have, all those are actually prepping the way for you to attain the supreme attainment called enlightenment. Okay, the Buddha. You become a Buddha yourself. And that's very important. Don't settle for less than that. Okay? 429. Or perhaps they make a division into 5, which moreover has 2 representatives.
或开为5，然有2家。
So before they talk about 4 periods, now they talk about 5. There are 2 types of Dharma masters who advocate that. 431, one is Hui Guan, and the others are Dao Chang, who, after the markless and before the identical return, place a Vimala Kirti and Videsha Shasinta and so forth as a teaching of reproach and acclaim.
1. 道场会观等于无相之后，同归之前，只净名、思义等为异阳教。
Okay, 432. One group is represented by Dharma Master Hui Guan. Hui Guan was a Chinese master whose teacher was Indian master, Dharma Master Buddhabhadra. Buddhabhadra came from India, and he went to China to help propagate Buddhism. He had this ideal here to propagate Buddhism, translated a lot of sutras, important sutras, such as Avatamsaka Sutra. And so he actually was despised. They threw him out. The Chinese didn't like him. So, and eventually he ended up at a way place called Dao Chang. Okay, that temple called Dao Chang. And then he taught a lot of disciples, among which was Hui Guan and other Dharma masters who studied Buddhism, who really did studied the Buddhist teaching extensively, and they believe that there should be 5 types of teachings. Okay, and so they said that after the teaching of marks and marklessness, and ahead of identical return and ahead of teaching of permanent dwelling, there's something called the teaching of reproach and acclaim. Okay, what is reproach and what is acclaim? So he says, reproach is that this is a kind of very Chinese, very Buddhist. he says, the many Buddhist practitioners, Buddhist believers who attain wisdom. Okay, wisdom is that they are able to detach. Difference is that if you cannot detach, then you are confused. If you're able to detach, then you have some wisdom, and that is that was attained or certified by some practitioners called arhats or pratyeka Buddhas. They can detach. They can detach on all the worldly things, whereas we can't. That's why we're confused. If you cannot detach, it's like you carry your baggage wherever you go, everywhere you go. And you see, can you imagine how tiring it is to carry attachment? You cannot let go, so you carry it with you, you take it with you constantly. Okay? But the arhats, the sound hearers and pratyeka Buddhas are the ones who have wisdom, because they can drop it, they can let go. When we can't, they can. And that's called wisdom, by the way. Okay? So the arhats are incredible people. They have tremendous wisdom. That's why they are able to drop the myriads of things in the world. Name something you can't. Something's important to you. Your children. Arhat says, you can have them. What else is important to you? Money. Arhat says, don't give me money. I don't know what to do with it. It's useless to me. That's wisdom. Okay? And that's why the problem with these people is they're imbalanced, they're extreme. They're so detached on everything about life. And they call it wisdom. So that's why they're very, very happy. They're so happy. Because they look at us and say, you guys are suffering so much. Why? Why do you have to live like that? So they said, I can choose not to be like you. To whatever you're attached to, I don't. And that's the arhats, or pratyeka Buddhas. And the Buddha, so the Buddhas, in the Buddha's teaching, these monks, these scholars say, in the Buddha's teachings, actually, there's a section called, the teaching period called the teaching of reproach, where he says, I taught you to let go. And you succeeded in letting go. Let me tell you, there's a problem with that. Okay? That is, they call it, this is the Buddhist jargon, withered sprouts and sterile seeds. Okay? Meaning that the arhats have wisdom, but they're useless. It's like the seeds. They are sterile. You plant all you want, then nothing good comes out of it. Okay? Or it comes up, the sprout comes up, but then it will never grow into anything of use to us. So what's the point in spending your life attaining that? When are you going to wake up? Because what happened to these people is that it's very, very important danger that when you practice, you need to prepare for. Okay? Besides, something called the khanda demons, where you experience these things as you practice. Before you open your wisdom, there's something called the skanda demons, 50 skanda demons, where you are able to have these spiritual things. That's so cool. That's so extraordinary that ordinary people don't. You have this sensitivity about energy. You're seeing things, you're hearing things, you understand things, and that you never could before. And those are the pitfalls of the process. And the Buddha names it out. When you go, it's just like you go through this phase where this terrain, where it's kind of dangerous. You have to be aware of it. Okay? And if you are aware of it, you're prudent, you will not get in trouble. That's all it takes. Whereas the non-Buddhist disciples, the non-Buddhist practitioners, when they practice, they go beyond their understanding, the Vedas in Hinduism or whatever they have in yoga, whatever they have, okay, in various practices. They're not aware of this range of dangerous territories where you can get lost and you can get possessed by demons if you're not careful. So the Buddha says, beware of this. Okay, and so the arhats, his disciples, they say, it's that simple. I just shouldn't take it as a big deal. Whatever thing, it will go away. It will not be there forever. Okay, it's not a big deal. Very much like I see it, and eventually I will not see it anymore. It's just a phase in my travel. I get to see the desert. I get to see the oceans. What's a big deal? Okay, it's no big deal. Okay, yeah. And so the arhats have that kind of edge over the non-Buddhist practitioners. That's why they made it. Because if in that process you become attached to how cool it is for you to be able to see things, to sense things, okay, then you get in trouble. You become attached. So the arhats made it through that strange terrain, and they can detach from everything to the point where they are so detached from life. Then the point is, if that's all you're going to shoot for, then you're useless. Your life is meaningless. You have wisdom, but it's only for yourself. That's why the two men, you just doing everything for yourselves. So you basically are useless. You can't benefit anyone but yourself. That's why the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are very, very adamant about this. He says, beware, okay? Having wisdom has a pitfall as well. First level wisdom has a pitfall where you're so detached that you basically disengage from life, which makes you totally useless. Your life has no meaning. You may have a little bit of wisdom, but it won't be any good for anyone but yourself. So very much like when the terrain I talked to you about, where there's some demons things there, skandha demons, where you're able to see things and do things that ordinary people don't or can't. Okay, and then you go to the next phase where you actually are able to detach from everything. There's another pitfall there, a much bigger pitfall. If you attach to demons, you still can be helped. It's still recoverable. But if you detach, like the arhats do, when they say, you come to them and say, there's a lot more, much better things than on this path than you're experiencing. You know what the arhats would say? What for? It's empty anyway. So Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are very, very adamant, very critical of such attitudes. So they use harsh words such as withered sprouts. It comes out. The seeds come out already, but it withers. It's useless. Or the sterile seeds. You plant the seeds, you keep on planting seeds, but it amounts to nothing. So sometimes you in Buddhism, people like Master YongHua and so forth have very harsh words to the Hinayana people who are shooting to become arhats. Okay, because it's a real danger. Once you attach to this arhat's kind of wisdom, where you detach from everything, nothing is that important. You can drop anything. Okay. Then you're in big trouble. It's the total waste of time. All the things you accomplished until then are nullified. And therein lies a concept of a claim that when you go beyond that, why would you go beyond that? Why would you going to go from detachment from everything and feeling so happy and so blissful every single day, every single moment in your life? You feel so free, you feel so happy, blissful. Okay, there's something far greater, much more blissful. Okay, and that's why they claim. He says, if you want to avoid it, there's something called the Bodhisattva pathways, where the first thing that what's the difference between the Bodhisattvas and the Arhats? Bodhisattvas, the first major difference is Bodhisattva says, I want to become a Buddha. Arhats don't. Arhats only say, I want to become an Arhat. I want to become a Pratyeka Buddha. And that's incredible wisdom already. So what happened is the reproach part of the teaching is that you are too short-sighted. The teaching or claim is that this is a big picture. Okay? We're doing all this. You want true happiness. You want to have true wisdom. You have to become a Buddha. Okay? And so that's why if you, all of you who took refuge already, in that refuge ceremony there, we have a portion where it says, I vow to become a Buddha. Because that's called great resolve for Bodhi. And that very single act there of you saying, I vow to become a Buddha, guarantees you will become a Buddha. That's how powerful it is. That's the kind of wisdom the Buddha has. Meaning that it doesn't matter what you do now, but eventually you will become a Buddha. Guaranteed. So the question is, how soon do you want it? How soon do you want it to happen? If you want it sooner, then eventually you will be pushed into cultivating the 6 paramitas, giving, what else? You have to memorize these things. You don't memorize these things, it would take you longer to become a Buddha, okay? You want to memorize them or not? This is critical. Okay, Vanessa, what's first one giving? Number 2 is what? She says, I'm having fun here. Precepts. When you give, what happens when you give your true blessings? Then you're able to be a good person. Why people are evil and they are not able to do good is because they don't have enough blessings. That's a beautiful thing about blessings. Don't give your children money. Let them starve. Kidding, okay? Give them blessings. When they have blessings, you can see the natural proclivities. They like to do good. They're good people. They're good children. They're good to their parents. They're filial to their parents. They're good to others. And they like to do good. They're happier when they do good. And they do not want to do bad things. Every now and then, but not always. All right? So interesting. So if you have blessings, then you're able to be a moral person. Okay? And then, what's the third one? You have to memorize these 6 folks. What's the third one? The third paramita? Patience. Okay? A good person is very patient. He can endure all sorts of abuses from the wives. Do this, do that. Why can't you do this? We can't do that. And you quietly say, yes, honey, yes, honey. You know what I mean? And that's patience. Okay? And then, not only you say, yes, honey, number 4 is vigor. Not only you say yes to your wife, you also work very hard at doing what your wife wants you to do. It's called vigor. It's fascinating. You guys think this is like something unreasonable, and you see it manifesting itself in your daily lives. There is a progression. First, you accrue blessings. When you accrue blessings, you naturally will do good. You naturally will be able to do good, and you run away. You abstain from doing bad things. That's a very good sign right there, especially when you have children. Children naturally are jealous, they're selfish and so forth. Okay? That's a natural thing for them. Okay? That's part of their feeling out the world. But if they have blessings, they prefer to stay on the good side of life or behaviors. And then the third one is patience. And that's very important. Speaking of living with others and teaching your children and see how they develop, is that they naturally become more patient. You want to build relationships, meaningful relationships, you have to have patience. My disciple, for example, has been bugging me about some stupid things. I don't say anything. I let them fight it out. Why? Because they're learning. I'm learning how to be more patient with their stupidities. Do you think it's theory? No, it's like every day. You learn to be patient with people's stupidity, especially your own disciples. How disappointing. Your own children. Can you imagine? Stupid children. I'm like, okay. Let them fight it out. Because when that happens, what happens? You suffer inside. Oh my God, why me? Run away. Can you take a hike, go to the other temples or something? I mean, what's the matter with you? What don't you get? How dare you? I told them repeatedly, under me there's 4 levels. There's abbots, there's vice abbots, there is program managers, and there are assistants to me. Why do I say that? Because I've been patiently waiting for them for 15 years, 16 years. I said, now I really have these 4 levels. And guess what? An idiot and at level number 3, which is 2 levels below number 1, is picking a fight with number 1. And I said, how stupid can you be? And they bugged me over that. You are number 3, you're number 4, because you have no wisdom whatsoever. And you don't have the samadhi power. You pick a fight with the other higher levels, you're going to get hurt. It's like you picking a fight with the president. You're going to get hurt. But not only that. So everyone needs to endure it. That's how you become more patient. Sometimes problems should be let problem fester so that you learn about patience. You become more patient. If you are not patient, you cannot do big things, by the way. You cannot accomplish anything unless you become more patient. See, so I wanted to tell them this years ago, but now that we have more people, I say, okay, we better structure ourselves, and I cannot chase after all of you. So I have structure here. I train certain people so that they know, they know they're supposed to. There's some people who have much higher wisdom than they do, and if they don't believe it, well, pick a fight. You find out. See who's going to get hurt, who's going to lose. Okay, so you patiently wait. Same thing. You patiently wait for the thing to sprout and water so that it keeps on growing and growing and growing. Very much like your children. You have to invest. Okay, so number 3, patience. You endure patience. This afternoon, someone asked me, why do you I have to, I meditate, I feel so good, I feel so happy about meditation. Now I come to your walk-me meditation class, where the first thing you do is you teach me to cross my legs and endure the pain. What am I getting? You find out you're patient enough, is my answer. Okay? And then, what's next after patience? Are you paying attention? Are you going to write it down or what? Yeah, right. Yeah. It's recording. Vigor. Vigor means that you really want it. You really want it. You really want it, you become vigorous. This is the test that many of my disciples failed. And that's why I call them losers. They really don't want it. They only talk. And that's, to me, is a blueprint on how you train people. That's how you spot people. That's how you look at people's potential. Who says that Buddhism, we are a bunch of idiots and avoid life? I used to be in corporate America, so I saw how I was intrigued on how to train people. Okay? And this is the blueprint, Buddhist blueprint on how to develop talents, how to develop your children. What phase are they at? Huh? If they are patient with it, but I don't feel like I want to apply myself too much. Okay? Then it's time to let go. Run, son, go get married. Let your wife run your lives. Okay? Let your husband tell you what to do. Because you have to want it yourself. For you to know true happiness. You cannot let others tell you what to do. You have to want it. If you don't want it, there's no point in pressuring them. See, isn't that a blueprint for getting along with your children? Why do women have to ask, force their children, the boys to get married? I don't get it. If they don't want it, leave them alone. It's always, mom wants to have grandchildren. Say what? You see how upside down people's lives are, live their lives. And it's the 6 paramitas, folks. It's life. A happy life. Praise the Lord. Excuse me. How badly do you want it? If you badly want it, you're vigorous, okay? Then the 5th one is samadhi. You are able, then, if you are driven, really driven, you can enter samadhi. You can develop this something called concentration, where you can really, really have laser focus. Most of the discoveries in humankind is from concentration. Agree, disagree? The geniuses have terrific concentration. And it's not just concentration, but concentration has gradations, have levels as well. That's why in Buddhism, in Chan, for example, we teach you to increase concentration level. Why is it important? Because if you have concentration, you can get things done this quickly. And you have more time to have fun. Instead of you think, I don't know what to do with my life. Okay? I'm waiting for something to happen. Whereas you can take the bull by the horn and say, I'm going to do this, and then I go take it easy. I am going to do this, that's existence. Take it easy, says emptiness. See that? Any questions? Everyone, I don't know. How can Master turn something as sublime as the 6 paramitas into husbands and wives? Besides, see my point. If you have such wisdom, your relationship with your family member is a cinch. There's no more struggle. Everyone happy. Okay, and it's more than that, folks. The 6th one, 6 paramitas, wisdom. Wisdom is that you know how to get things done. How to get what you want. Anything in life you want, you can get it done. That's the difference between our Buddhism versus the other approaches. I'm fascinated by how to get it done. That's how we contribute to life, to society. Leave a mark of goodness behind us. And that's what they praise it. The acclaim appeared. They said, these beings are superior beings. They're very low-key. They walk by, you cannot tell. Like Master Shinho, he walks by, oh, there's another short Chinese. That's my first impression. This is a short one. Shabbily dressed. So famous, so powerful, and yet his clothes are totally uncool, unstylish. It bothered me. My God. See, I went to a French high school, so that colored my vision. The French is, you cannot live with style. Why bother living? So if I cannot live a life of a monk with style, I don't want it. So for me, it's funny. I first looked at him and said, really? Is this what I'm going to become? It sort of turned me off a little bit. Especially, look at how he was dressed and how his disciples were dressed. I said, oh my God. When I have money, I will have Armani design some clothes for us. Okay? So you're laughing. But to me, that's very important. Important because there's room for you to let go and dress shabbily. But let me tell you what the problem is that these people have a hard time connecting with the people who have power, who have... So they limit themselves to setting up a standards of purity for them, but while disengaging from society. And Buddhism to me serves all sorts of groups. Anyway, just my bias about styles and stuff. I'm still shocked, and I still have these images on how he was dressed and his monks are dressed. I said, oh my God. Yeah. Ever look at yourself in a mirror? Anyway. And it's weird too, because when I was practicing, I noticed many of them are so proud to wear something with patched things. It's like a status thing. Like Google used to be the case where you're not supposed to drive a fancy car. So I have money, I can't enjoy myself. Seriously? So anyway, so they would, normally on normal days they wear some nice clothes like this, and on the weekends when a lot of people come, they would wear things with, the collars here. We wash them a lot, so this gets frayed. So they put something to cover it up, they patch it up on the back. Okay, on weekends only. Anyway, how did we get into style again? Oh, Armani, remind me. Okay, so not only 6 paramitas, please memorize 6 paramitas. To me, 6 paramitas give you tremendous insights and wisdom into the process. Okay? And that's tremendous insights. You will not find better. I give an example of how to raise your children, how to prepare them, how to train people in corporate, in business, okay? How to teach students, same thing, okay? The 6 paramitas, if you want to help and make a difference, the core of that is the 6 paramitas. Okay? And the 10,000 practices. What are the 10,000 practices? $10,000 means a lot. Okay? Now it's not like a trillion, not 10,000 anymore. Nowadays, it's before it's like a millionaire, right? You're a millionaire. People, I want to become a millionaire. Now, like so many billionaires, it's not funny anymore to mention millionaire. Like here in San Jose, by the way, Koreans, every house is $1 million. I walk out there and I say, oh, these people are so wealthy. They are millionaires here in San Jose. Everywhere you go, millionaire, 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 except for the renters. And the houseless, the homeless. Okay? And so, Min Suk, for example, at DDT, who came from Korea, who left his wife. He owns so many properties. He's a millionaire many times over already at his age. Isn't that cool? Hey, you're showing off. That's Min Suk, by the way. Everyone say hello to him. Millionaire. Welcome to America. So millionaire is no big deal anymore. I go in the U.S. here. It's one of the worst things you have to do is go to the Department of Motor Vehicles. When you sit there for hours waiting for your turn and look around, I don't dare do anything because they're all millionaires. They're all richer than I am. Okay, so now billionaires, millionaires, quite a few. Trillionaire is what interests me nowadays. Okay, so why do we have 10,000 practices? The result is every day at our temple. Why we do 10,000 practices? Because you have 10,000 different kinds of food. We're very proud of our temple. If you go to Wei Mountain Temple, it's always Vietnamese food. But our temple, I mean, when you go to Gofor, it's always Vietnamese food. When you go to Wei Mountain Temple, we eat, what is we eat? Vietnamese, we eat Chinese, we eat, what else? Tacos, Taco Tuesdays, and we have Korean, of course. Okay. Impossible burgers. How, when you do the 10,000 practices, you have 10,000 blessings. Very much like when you're born. Tomorrow we start the Pure Land, the Fochi. Born into the Pure Land, you feel like eating Polish? Beef stroganoff comes. You want Neapolitan pizza? Now you have to fly to Naples, okay? Then you have true, authentic Neapolitan pizza. Let me tell you, you have to go to Italy. U.S. here, I realized that it's not the real one. They call themselves authentic Neapolitan pizza. No, don't buy it. How do we get to pizza again? Anyway, so you have the 10,000 practices that creates 10,000 blessings. And that's what makes life interesting. Because you want all sorts of blessings so that when you go to the Pure Land, it manifests itself in the Pure Land. You want whatever food in Pure Land, it comes. It's from your blessings. Don't ignore this. Don't neglect this. Plant blessings. That's what the 10,000 practices are for. Meaning, you do good every single chance you have. If you can benefit someone, do it. Don't hesitate, no matter how small it is, how insignificant it is, because you never lose. Okay? And so their claim is that, these people are special. They have the big resolve. They know they have a big picture. They said, I want to become a Buddha. Okay, and that's the ultimate attainment for me. I don't know quite what it is yet, but I know that's where I'm going. What else? Compare that versus your children. What do they want to be when they grow up? President of the United States. That's it. Emperor of China. That's it. It's too small. And then, in order to do that, those people in the know who have blessings will be practicing the 6 paramitas and the 10,000 practices. So, for example, we are part of a network of such people who have made a big resolve, practice the 6 paramitas and 10,000 practices. And I try to explain to people, to my students, that it's a network. It's not like one of my Chinese disciples says, I love this community of people who pursue this, these insights, these spiritual practices, or superior practices. It's a network versus a community, because what's the difference? Community of Vietnamese, community of Jewish practitioners, community of, I don't know, whatever community you can think of. It's very small. What about network? Network is a system of communities. Why is it network? Where are those communities? In the Dharma realm. Because you belong here now in Sahara world. Next time you go to the Pure Land, next time you go to another world, you be part of that network of people who are going towards this thing called Bodhi, practicing the 6 paramitas and cultivating the 10,000 practices. It is such networks of people. We know each other. You don't need to sign up and become a member of World Perks or anything like that. You have the key. You are able to enter lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Incredible network. Don't think so small. But unfortunately, truth be told, our network here, our node of the network here, is one of the least desirable places. Too poor. Compared to, for example, you go to Western Bliss Building. It's fabulous. You're talking about rich, talking about cool. Yes, JMT.
한국어 유튜브에 올라온 영신님 질문입니다. 아이들에게 돈을 주지 말고 굶게 내버려 두세요라고 말씀하셨는데요. 그럼 아이들 밥을 안 차려놓고 절에 가도 죄책감을 가질 필요가 없습니까?
We cannot hear you.
Again. Master, you told me that don't give money to children and let them starve. Then I don't feel guilty when I go to temple without preparing meal for them. Is it right?
What?
You told don't give money to children and let them starve. So what if I go to temple without preparing a meal for my children and go to temple, then I don't need to feel guilty. Is it right?
Don't give children money to children, let them starve. Is that what she said? Don't put words in my mouth. She said. That's what she said, right? She claims that's what I said. I advocated starving children now? Is that what this is about? Who is this person again? This Korean person? Oh, is it the translator? Heads will roll. You know what heads will roll means? You cut someone's head off and it falls on the floor and it rolls. That's why heads will roll. Who said it?
Kim Young-shin?
Do I know her?
You means cousin, the doctor.
The what?
You means cousin, the doctor.
You mean, where is she? The cousin who's a doctor. Oh, Young-shin. Right? Okay. She's lucky that time is running out. First of all, lady, I never advocated we should starve children. Okay. So to say that I advocate that you should starve children and not feed them and just go to the temple, it's not true. So you should stop starving your children. How's that? Please go home and feed them.
And be nice to your children. Okay? Anyone has a better idea? Since when do I teach people to starve children? No? All right, any other questions and comments? DTT, go ahead.
I have a YouTube question from Samson Lau. Master, does that mean that most of us who are cultivating in this lifetime has cultivated in prior lives, and that is how we've planted the seeds to continue to cultivate in this lifetime and the next?
In general, in principle, for you to get to practice Mahayana, it takes a lot of blessings. You cultivate it before. In particular, you'll be able to practice the kinds of Mahayana that we teach. It requires a lot of blessings. It requires you to have accrued a lot of blessings in order for you not become alienated, by the way. It's a simple test. Litmus test is that how long can you survive? If you are not turned off, then you have blessings. Is that difficult? So yes, the answer is yes, in principle, that the reason that you are not turned off is because you have prior blessings. So that's why where you plant blessings matter. Very much like if you have the blessings, it gives you access to this network of practitioners, okay, who will support you. All right, so yes, short answer is yes. So careful, plan blessings at the proper places to give you access. And you've done it already. That's why you're able to have access to this. Okay. All right. Anything else? If not, time is up. Look at that. Look at that. We have a big temple. The biggest temple we have is the Wei Mountain Temple. And it's no one there right now. Clearly, these people have no blessings. Only 3 of them who are working. Okay. Okay, thank you everyone. Let's do a reverse transference to help people get at the Pure Land. That's one of our part of our network as well.